Hey guys, Pedro here to do an album review, and today I'm here to tell you about the latest from Heidevolk, Wederkeer, out February 24th on Napalm Records. This album has 12 tracks, 52 minutes in length, and this is the band's 7th full-length studio album. They are a Dutch folk Viking metal band. This is a concept record, a concept that ties in perfectly with the design because it allows it to be versatile. What I mean by that is that you can listen to these songs individually and you're going to get everything that they have to offer. Nothing is going to be missing. But if you decide to listen to the album from start to finish, you're going to see how well these songs connect with one another. Also, adding a vocal interlude and an instrumental interlude connects the tracks really well. This is a super fluid, dynamic album that never breaks. There's no pauses. There's no interruptions in terms of how you move from track to track and how you move overall across all 12 songs. 52 minutes in length feel more like 30. This speaks volumes of the playability of the album, but also of the design that they've created for this record. Now, once it comes to the sound, the key core element of the sound of this album is how it keeps a spinal chord as the common denominator across each and every single track. It doesn't matter what song you play, the folk element of their sound and the anthem style approach, not just vocally but musically in terms of how they create songs, these are the common denominators on every single song. Then they allow themselves to construct and deconstruct around it, building blocks or removing building blocks. Some songs on this album are over the top, epic, symphonic, bombastic, folky, super heavy, pushing some black metal elements, some death metal elements. And then you have songs that are more earthy, more grounded, a little bit more stripped down, enhancing the folk side of the sound, allowing that to be the driver of the experience. And then you're going to find songs somewhere in between. This versatility of sound only works because the spinal cord of the record is the same for every single song. So from a listener's point of view, it doesn't matter how far off the beaten path I go, I'm always finding my way back into that same journey, back into that same path. And this allows the experience to be versatile, to be diverse, but not to be unbalanced. I love this design, I love this record, I love this way of creating a sound experience that goes so far, but always stays very close. Now, within that sound experience, I could talk about the symphonic elements and I could talk about the folk elements. I like both a lot. They obviously add life, they add energy, and like I said, one of them is pretty much a spinal cord element, a common denominator across each and every single song. But this record, I think from a pure listener's point of view, the things that are going to jump out immediately is how heavy this album is. It's a very heavy album, almost consistently heavy across each and every single song. If not consistently musically, it's consistent with the atmosphere that it creates from start to finish. Two elements that add to that heaviness is the drums and guitars. I absolutely love the drum sound on this album. Very grounded, but very thick, very textured, with a lot of heaviness, but a lot of emotion in it, almost becoming the heartbeat of this record, sung in and sung out, allowing itself to create the perfect bass line, or to allow itself to be the glue that holds those common denominators together across the entire album. Now, the guitars are outstanding as well. Great solos on this album, tons of life, tons of energy in the guitar solos, but the overall guitar sound on this record is phenomenal. When the songs become big, heavy, brutal, I would say, the guitars are there to create that experience, that thickness of experience. Very thick sounding guitars for most of the album, but also very melodic, very folky, very driven, breaking some of that stereotype that's created with the heavier songs, leaving a very impressive mark in your mind in terms of how heavy the album is and how heavy those guitars sound. But it's a very versatile album also from a guitar sound point of view, and I really enjoyed it. I felt like they were almost the calling card of the entire record. You can talk about all the other elements, you can talk about the drums, how important they are, because they are. You can talk about the symphonic elements, the folk elements, how they intertwine with one another. You can talk about the mobility that the album has, you can talk about the design. But this album wouldn't be what it is without this guitar sound, without this guitar approach. I love a little bit more thickness on it. I love the fact that it still has melody, that it still has a lot of that that folkiness also permeating through the melodies of the guitar, but this album really pushes the guitars into the forefront and gives them a much larger platform than what I was expecting coming in. Vocally, the album is that anthem style approach. They've done it before, that's their DNA, and this record is absolutely no different. Works very well on this album, perhaps the album where that style blends better with how different the sound experience is from track to track. It's difficult to create songs that have that same anthem style, that same anthem vocal approach, and make the sound feel slightly different but still work with it, because you have one element that doesn't change while the other one is going in different directions. They were able to create different style of anthems, if you will, throughout this entire record. You have 12 of them, but they all feel different. They all have different unique characteristics. Even vocally, they didn't use the same style or the same patterns sung in or sung out. They took different styles, they took different approaches, but always with the same end result. And that is their DNA, and that was something that I wasn't expecting to change, and I'm glad that it didn't, because it works well in the overall design and in the overall execution that this album offers. This is one of those records that it's very hard to point a flaw. Where is it? I can't find it. The design, perfect. The concept plays perfectly into it. The sound experience, bombastic, then a little bit more grounded. It's not repetitive. It's not a repetitive album across any of these songs. Then you have great guitar sound, you have great drum sound, and then you have that anthem style vocal approach that just brings it all together. This is one of those albums that I feel like it's, if not perfect, it's nearly perfect. Outstanding record across all the different parameters that you can analyze. This album blew me away by how good it is, by how versatile it is, by how diverse it is, and at the same time, I'm always feeling like I am in the same album, in the same experience, regardless of how far it takes me, because it always brings me back. As far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Die Strijd, Duurt, Voort, biggest, most epic track on the record. Symphonic folk black metal with some death metal elements. I mean, I think they threw almost every single genre at it, and they made it work. Larger than life. Musically, this track is just off the charts. It's thick, it's heavy, it's bombastic, at times even a little bit cinematic, and then as big as it is musically, is the same size vocally. Just a massive anthem of a song across all the different parameters. I felt like it just got bigger and better with every passing minute. There's a portion of the song that the folkiness and the symphonic elements together, coming together, really strip down the track and allow you to feel that spinal cord. That spinal cord becomes visible for a moment in time, allowing you to then be able to connect this track with the rest of the album, because from everything else around it, it was so heavy, it feels so big that there's no other song that even comes close to it. But by giving you that piece, that portion that's a little bit more out in the open, you see where the connection is, and allows this track to work in the overall design of the record. Next you have Oeros, another anthem. I mean, every track is an anthem, but this one really comes across clearly as one, very vocally driven. While the previous track was more about the sound, about how big the drums were, how heavy the guitars were, and then the vocals were kind of playing into that sense, into that sound, into that experience, this track works the other way around. It strips down the sound, or brings down the sound a little bit, allows the vocals to be a little bit more in the forefront, so it's more vocally driven, and then the sound becomes the soundtrack to the vocals, to the story, to everything else that is happening. Still heavy, but also melodic, and it feels stripped down when it becomes more melodic. Infusing some acoustic guitars on this track works really well, because it creates, it brings that aroma, that folky aroma into the forefront, that once again allows the song to then connect with the tracks that came before and to connect with the songs that come after. But the vocals are the focus. That is what piques your interest, and that is what connects with the song. They drive the track, they drive the experience of the track, allowing for some more linear moments musically in the verses, in the vocals allow those verses to also be more linear across both parameters, and then more layered, more bombastic in the chorus, but not over the top. It's not a song that has a complete break between the two, but it differentiates the two momentums of the song musically and vocally. But still, very connected track, really enjoyable, great song, great sound, and you just connect with those vocals and you stay connected with them. Last but not least, Holda, a little bit more dark. This track definitely has a dark underbelly to it. The melodic side of the song showcases that dark underbelly, and it still allows you to feel like it is a heavy track as far as the guitars and drums are concerned, but infusing some folk elements strip away a little bit of that heaviness and add a little bit to that darkness. This makes the song feel more layered, it makes the song feel like it has more depth, and allows you to experience this track from a different point of view. You have the same elements that you had in Oeros, but the way they're put together are quite different, allowing you to still connect the tracks but have a different experience with them. This is it. Heidevolk, Wederkeer, out February 24th on Napalm Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.